Okay. Well, I'll just start with kind of an overview of what I got um, planned for this evening. So I'm going to be talking about, as the title says, my mental health journey. I'm really just going to start from all the way in the beginning at childhood and then work my way up to the present. And I guess I'll be sharing a lot of the difficulties really, because it's something I've struggled with a lot over the course of my life. Um, so I'll be sharing a lot about that. And then also I guess where I'm at right now, I've really, especially in the last 3 months, I've really made a whole lot of progress in my life. And even just thinking back like 3, 4 months ago, I would not imagine being where I am now, where I'm doing all these different intuitive readings and stuff, and doing these Facebook events. And this weekend, I'll be doing in-person readings in Wisconsin, and it's just been so much fun and also very challenging and everything. Um, and then also kind of near the end, I'm thinking maybe this will go like 40 minutes or so. Near the end, I'm going to bring my mom, Nicole, on for a little bit and let her share, just from her perspective, what it's been like raising a kid and seeing a kid that's had so many just mental health struggles. Um, and for me, it's been bipolar disorder, the ups and downs of that. Hi, Monica. So that's a bit of an overview. And one other thing too, at the end, after my mom speaks, after I speak at the end and wrap it up, I'm going to close the Facebook Live and I'm going to post the Zoom link in the chat. And if you'd like to join me in the Zoom room here and chat for a little bit, over Zoom in person, I guess it'll be maybe a group of us chatting together. That's an option, and that won't be on Facebook Live either. That'll just be the Zoom. So yeah, that's the format I got for tonight. So I'm just gonna dive right in now to starting at the beginning and starting with childhood, I suppose. I got my notes written up here so I have some direction. So for me, growing up in childhood and elementary school, I really enjoyed it. I did really well in elementary. I've always done well academically too. Academics hasn't been a big struggle for me. Throughout childhood and elementary, I really loved Pokemon a lot. But really, looking back at it, like, I was just a happy freaking kid. I mean, you have your ups and downs, everyone does, but overall, a very happy kid. And also in elementary school, a very popular kid in our small town of Iota. It was very popular, if you will, in elementary school, like being one of the faster kids. I don't know. But for me, seeing myself as a really popular kid, even just at a young age, like, that was a real part of my identity. And I guess I took a lot of pride in that, or like kind of being a cool kid. I'm like kind of high on myself a little bit, but high on myself from kind of other people's, even other kids' perspective, or at least what I thought they thought of me. I really cared a lot about what other people thought about me. So that's kind of elementary. Elementary really, really well. Went really well. The first kind of interesting experience I had was in actually 5th grade. Near the end of 5th grade, I remember there were like 2 or 3 months there where from like February to April when I was in 5th grade, so like, I don't know, 10 or 11 years old, but I was just on this high. And I don't really know how to explain it really well, but it just felt like it was just different from the state I was used to. It just felt like, whoa, this is really like this is really awesome. And I just felt more outgoing and more taking more kind of risks. And I had a couple different, oh, I keep freezing up. If anyone else has that problem, let me know, because maybe it's just on Susan's end. But anyways, yeah, I had this high where I don't know, it just, I'm like, whoa, things are different. And I really liked it because it felt really good. I just felt like a lot of energy and really cool. And then I had a couple different 5th grade girlfriends where it's like we're dating, but we don't talk to each other at all, kind of thing. Like a very, very weird kind of kid type thing there. So yeah, that was my first, and I didn't think much of it at the time, but looking back at it, that was my first time where I like experienced something kind of abnormal. So then going into 6th grade, 6th grade was good, average, normal year. And then 7th grade was kind of interesting. I felt like I was on 6th grade. I didn't really have any of the highs, any noticeable mood shift highs. 7th grade, if from what I remember, it just felt like the entire year was a high. Like I was just on a high that entire year. And again, I was a very popular kid, a cool kid. And I just thought like, yeah, this is me. I'm Graham. Yep, I'm a cool kid kind of thing. And in 7th grade there, we had a kid transfer from a different school, and he was a black kid. He was African American, and here at IOTA, literally, I think he was the only African American kid in our class. So that was like, a big deal kind of, or abnormal. And so I became good friends with him while he was there, because he was also a great athlete, and I played football and basketball. So we played football and basketball together, and I became friends with him. And what kind of changed a little bit there was that he had more, well, I'll share up until 7th grade too, like my home life too, perfect, or near perfect, very ideal, no problems at home. My family's great. So nothing rough on that end, like a very easy and good life. In 7th grade there, I became friends with this new kid, and he had a lot more, like he just struggled more. He had a rougher home life, and he was moving around from school to school. And so he was a little more of, up until that point too, I was very much like by the book. Like I did all my homework each day. I got straight A's. Like I I wasn't a rebel really at all. But once I started hanging out with him and I was on these really high highs, I started becoming a little more rebellious in a sense, a little bit. And then the last month of 7th grade, eventually Bryce, or I didn't mean to say his name, but eventually this kid, he left. this kid that had transferred to our school. He left in the middle of the year, 7th grade. And so I'd invested a lot of time into him. And now it was like, where do I stand now? And then a couple different kids, I started hanging out with a couple different kids that were very much not popular and very more rebellious and more maybe trouble, I would say. More trouble. And I hung out with them. And then that's where what really drew me to them was I was really concerned about what other people thought. But this one friend in particular I started hanging out with that was more trouble, did not care at all what anybody thought. And for me, that was like, I was really drawn to that. And I thought it was hilarious. And he was, mouthing off to teachers, stuff like that, like was kind of a little rude, maybe like that, but he was also a really funny guy. And so I started hanging out with him. So I started hanging out with a different crowd. And then that summer of 7th grade, I remember that summer, all I did was watch TV, literally the entire summer. All I did was watch TV every day. So I come back 8th grade, and now I'm hanging out with a different crowd. And I come back 8th grade and I just feel different. I had just gone watching TV all summer too. And I come back and it felt like I had lost my mojo. Like this high I was on in 7th grade, I came back and it was not there. And then I'm also hanging out with this different crowd. And I'm also in 8th grade, it kind of eventually dawned on me like, oh, I'm not the popular kid that I once was, or once thought I was, or whatever. Like I didn't have that same social status anymore. And then it just like my self-confidence just kind of started plummeting. Again, this is all just kind of stuff in my own mind, but this was my experience. And like in 8th grade, I remember like that being a rough year. And that's when just things just started going downhill. Like self-confidence started going down. I just wasn't feeling as good in myself. Started being really nervous around other people, and really my social anxiety just started spiking up. And I'm hanging now, my best friends are more like rougher kind of people, and they didn't really like, I didn't feel like they really cared about me and me all that much. Like they just kind of like screwing around, but I didn't feel like that deep personal connection with them, kind of. So I just started feeling more and more alone. And yeah, mental health just started going downhill. And then like going into 9th grade, it was like that too, where it's just like I started getting pretty depressed. Remember in 9th grade too, that's when I started playing this video game. It's called League of Legends. And starting in 9th grade there, this was like my schedule. I would go to school, get back home at 3, get home at 3, maybe watch TV for an hour or two, then play League of Legends until I go to bed. So play League of Legends, this computer game, for like 6, 7, 8 hours, and then go to bed. And that was really like my life, kind of 9th, 10th, a lot of coming into 11th grade too. Like that's literally, and I'm not even really joking when I say pretty much every day, that was my life. I went to school, and when I was at school, all I wanted to do is just get home and play League. Like League was my coping. League of Legends was my coping mechanism. But I just wanted to avoid my life, run away from my life. Things just started getting worse. And I feel like as far as like my parents or my family didn't really see that very much because I just kept to myself and was just in my room. But I was not doing well in my head. Yeah, and during this period too, I just became so afraid of expressing myself in any way at school. Like I just would not really talk to anybody. Um, didn't like it when people talked to me. I was like, oh, I just dreaded social conversations. And I also really didn't want to be seen alone, like eating at lunch alone. I really was concerned about people looking at me and being like, oh, he's a loser or something to that extent, or like, oh, look at Graham, like he really went downhill. Um, Let me keep going here. And I guess I got kind of used to living like that, but man, it was just not very fun at all. And then, so for kind of like 3 years, and I mean, there were some good moments in there still too, but essentially that was what was going on. It wasn't very fun. And then back to the highs, because I explained in 5th grade, I had this high. In 7th grade, I had this high. Then I went a few years, I was just pretty low. And I remember in 8th, 9th, and 10th grade just being like saying to myself repetitively, what happened? I want to go back to I want to go back to 7th grade. I want to go back to how I felt in 7th grade. 7th grade, I felt awesome. Why can't I just go back to 7th grade? I remember that thought. That would be on my mind all the time. And like, why am I so sad? Just thinking that to myself a lot. Then right at the start of my junior year, I was still hanging out with this rougher friend crowd. And right at the beginning of football, beginning of my junior year, I just went on, did some partying with this rougher friend crowd, and bam, I just snapped into another one of these highs. It was crazy. It's like I pretty much lived kind of 3 years or whatever, just like overall, just mostly pretty just meh and just bleh. And then all of a sudden, boom, snap. It's like I got in this new environment. I don't know. I got in this new environment and like, boom, I just came alive and I just instantly went into this high state. And it felt, and then all of a sudden, I'm talking to everybody. And and at that point, I was typically very reserved and would not open up to anybody, very shy. And it's like, whoa, I'm just talking to everybody and I want to talk to everybody. And like all this crazy energy and just feeling like I'm like on top of the world, really. What else? Just doing all this partying with my friends for a few days. And during this period too, I remember I stayed up 4 days straight without sleeping. I didn't sleep for 4 nights in a row. And I remember too, I wasn't tired at all. I remember not waking up. I didn't sleep, but getting up on the 5th day and just being like, man, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's keep going. So this was just really bizarre. This experience was really bizarre, but I was just loving it. Like I didn't know what was really going on, but I was just like, hell yeah, let's have some freaking fun. I was enjoying myself. At the same time, it wasn't calm. Like I wasn't just like, I wouldn't be able to like sit down and just relax like this. Like it was like, let's do something. Let's go kind of feeling to it. Then school started up again. And then after a few days of school, then it's kind of like snap, kind of as quick as it had come on, I snapped out of it and went back into my usual, or what was normal for me then. My my normal, just kind of like life is kind of shit state. Life is not back to my normal misery, I suppose. And that was really odd. So that was my first time kind of going high, really high, actually, really high, and then boom, low. And again, when I say it, it's like it just boom. All of a sudden, I was just like the high just wore off, and I was in this back to normal low. And so then what started happening around this time is I started going low and then high and then low and then high and then low and then high. Like I started doing this cycle where like I'd go like 7-10 days high, 7-10 days low, 7-10 days high, 7-10 days low. And it was just weird. It's just strange. When I would be up in the highs, again, I would be able to talk to everybody. I would talk with all my friends. I would interact with everyone at school. And really, I enjoyed it. I'm like, oh my God, I love life. It was just so much fun. And then like someone would say something, like maybe someone would make a comment and it kind of hit me a little weird. That's usually what it would be. It would be something minor like that would kind of snap me right out of it after like 7-10 days. And then I'd go back into the low and then it would just be instantly. And I'd be like, God damn it, I feel terrible again. Such a weird experience of going up and down like that. And I did not know what the hell was happening with me because I had no frame of mind of that. I didn't know. I just remember like something is really strange is going on here. So yeah, that's kind of what started happening. And this made the lows a lot worse because I had the contrast now, the contrast of feeling amazing and then boom, feeling terrible. And that contrast made these lows so much worse because it just felt like, God, I remember this thought always being in my mind. Whenever I was in a low, I would feel like it would never end. The low would never end. Like I would never get back up again. Somehow I always convinced myself that, and that always seemed to be true. And then during the highs, same exact thing. I'd be like, I will never come down from this high. I will never come down from this. I'm just gonna live like this the rest of my life. And literally every time, even though I was cycling every week, somehow I'd always convince myself of that. And I really believed it. And it was so strange. So then in our health class, we took a health class in junior year. And in there, they touched on mental health. And our health teacher played a video of this girl. And she was just explaining kind of exactly what was happening to me or what I was experiencing of like being really high and then all of a sudden being really low. And I'm like, oh my God, that's me. And then she shares like living with bipolar disorder or something. I'm like, what? And so I searched up what that meant, bipolar disorder, and I started looking into it. And I'm like, oh my God, that is me. I am experiencing what this says right here. Like I'm experiencing these crazy highs where I feel like invincible. And then I'm experiencing these terrible lows where I just want to die, really. So at that point I'm like, oh, at least I kind of have an idea of what's going on. But at the same time, like, I don't think I can really even explain how miserable the lows were. They were so miserable. I would just feel so freaking terrible. Oh, and then my junior year too, on one of my highs, I asked this girl out and we started dating and stuff too. I think that'll come into play a little later, but I'll just share that now. So yeah, I guess I was just really struggling a lot, and going through junior year, I'm cycling up and down a lot. During the summer, I think it leveled off and I was more just in a low most of the summer going into my senior year. But then my senior year, it started picking up again. And just for me, I did not know, like, I remember thinking to myself, like, who the fuck am I? Am I this? Because it really felt like I was living these two completely different experiences. Like, am I this person, this high person, or am I this miserable low person? Like, which one am I? And the thing is, too, it felt totally out of my control. Like, it would just happen. I would go from one to the other, and it just they would happen, and then I would switch from one to another, just like that. So my senior year, like, I really started struggling. I think my junior year too, near the end, I started seeing a counselor and a therapist. And while that wasn't necessarily bad, I wasn't experiencing a lot of help from that. The thing was too, I would tell these people, like, hey, I'm experiencing these crazy high highs, or I would, and none of them would, my couple therapists I had wouldn't acknowledge that, or they kind of disregarded that, and they would just label me depression, anxiety. And I'm like, fair enough. I do have that going on, but I also have these crazy highs too, man. It's not just that. And so they wouldn't really take my word for it on that because I hadn't had a crazy episode as of yet. So I saw some therapists, some counselors, wasn't experiencing a lot of help there. Then I think one other thing going through my mind through this period too, kind of from eighth grade up until like the senior year part too, was I really thought like I was the only, it really felt to me like I'm the only one struggling. Like all my friends around me, everyone else is doing fine. Everyone else is doing great. Everyone else enjoys their life. And only I'm struggling. Like, look at me. Like, I really felt like I was the most miserable person in the world. Um, yeah, yeah, that was a thing that really felt that way to me. So then near the end of my senior year, this is when things started changing a little bit. Near the end of my senior year, I had this really high, higher than my regular highs I was getting. I was still cycling pretty regularly every week up and down, just exhausting at this point. And so, but I was still really enjoying the highs, I guess, too. But it just was just, I don't know, man, it was tough. And then right near the end of my senior year in May, I had this exceptionally high episode. And then on top of it, to make it worse, I figured out that my one of my friends I had cheated on my girlfriend with me while we were dating. And at this point in May, my senior year, we weren't dating anymore. But I realized that when we were dating, she had cheated on me with him. And so I realized that during my really high, which really made it even more chaotic. And on top of that, I got high on marijuana too, which wasn't something I did very often, just here and there. But anytime I would, I really didn't like it because it would just made things even worse. So I was just in some crazy, whacked out, other dimensional kind of state here. And but still a really high. And I was still enjoying it, but it was just wild. And I remember me and my one friend that again is a little more, this rebel friend I've been talking about, a little more of a troublemaker. Me and him, I asked him, hey, let's ditch class, dude. It was like a Thursday. I'm like, let's ditch class. I'd never done this before, but I was on it, just a high. And so we ended up ditching class and we leave the school and we like we go into town and do whatever, and then I come back the next day, and I come in late. I show up late at like 10 o'clock, and right away I go to the office, or like I go to class, and the office calls me down, and they know that I skipped the day before, and so they tell my mom about it, and then my mom calls me, and she's just bitching me out and screaming at me, and that's when I just completely lost it. Like I just started bawling like crazy in the office room there. So I was like so disappointed that like my mom was just angry, but and I was just, I don't know, I was very unstable. I remember my face just like vibrating like crazy. And eventually, like I called my mom and just told her like I need to go to the hospital or something. And so then she settled down. What ended up happening, my guidance counselor ended up driving me to the hospital, and my mom met me there. And we went to go see a doctor, and I'm just in a crazy state. I remember while we're at the hospital, I recognized a lady that I had known from church when we went to church. And I recognized her. I never talked to her, but I just saw her and I recognized her. And I just started crying my eyes out. So weird, because I'm just like, oh my God, I know her. It's just such a strange state I was in. So I go into the doctor's office like that. And after like 15 or 20 minutes, they just put me in a wheelchair, and I don't know what the hell is happening now. Like, what is going on? But essentially, it just felt like I was in a movie at this point. They take me in a wheelchair and they just wheel me in the psych ward. And I ended up, again, I'm on a high. I feel like for me, like anytime I'm on a high, it doesn't matter what situation I'm in, I'm gonna overall have a good time. And if I was in a low, no matter what, it was gonna be miserable. So even though I was in the psych ward here at this point, I had a really good time in the psych ward actually, because I was on a high the entire time. So I was in the psych ward for a week, and that was an interesting experience, not being able to leave and everything. But what changed there when I was in the psych ward, they had a library there, and I came across a book that I started reading, and it was a psychedelic kind of book. Like it was about this guy, and it was a fictional story of this guy, and he travels to Alaska, and then like he takes like some LSD or acid, and then he goes into the forest, and then he turns into a ram and stuff, and like kind of this kind of hippie, become one with nature kind of thing. And I remember reading that and just being like, I'd never come across anything like that before. And I'm like, I can feel that because my experience so far of these highs feels kind of like that. And so that book was like, oh, that was really interesting. That opened up my mind a little more. And eventually, when I got out of the psych ward, I got on the computer and I searched like alternative views on bipolar disorder or something to that extent. And then so what popped up? Alternative views. And then I came across this book, and it was called Am I Bipolar or Waking Up? And I ordered it and I read it. And this book really, really helped me. It was about a guy who had very similar life experience as me. He was actually pretty normal life, corporate job. And then in his 30s, he just had a crazy, like what I was experiencing, I mean, a manic episode. I guess that's what's called, like the technical term for it. He had a crazy manic episode and ended up again in the hospital like I did in the psych ward. But only he saw it in a different lens. And he explained afterwards how after that experience, he started getting into spirituality and he started doing meditation, and he saw it as kind of like an eye-opening experience of kind of like seeing something more, or like being opened up to something kind of greater, or something. I guess like he saw it more as like a spiritual experience, the high, although chaotic, like a spiritual kind of eruption. He kind of saw it as something like that. And for me, that really resonated. I'm like, whoa, cool. So maybe this makes more sense to me than what the doctors are telling me, where they just tell me like I have a brain imbalance problem. I have, yeah, like there's just something really wrong with me. And I'm going to have to just figure out how to manage this for the rest of my life. But essentially, like you're hopeless, like you're not going to get better. I mean, that's pretty much what they tell you when it comes to mental illness. Like there's nothing you can kind of, cope with your life with it, but that's kind of it. So this was different. This was something, I guess, better. It sounded a lot better to me, and it really touched me. And so then I started just diving into this. This was right at the end of my senior year. So I was like 18 and a half. So I started just diving into spiritual stuff, and I started getting interested in like meditation and Eastern religion, Buddhism, stuff like that, which had never been on my radar before. But now I was getting really interested in it, and yeah, um, getting close to the end here, getting close. So then I went to community college for a little bit. I was still struggling a lot. I mean, I came out of the psych ward, I was still cycling up and down a lot. I was still struggling a lot, but it's like I felt like I had hope now, because I felt like my life, I really took the spiritual stuff to heart, and I went, oh, there is some sort of meaning to life. There is some sort of God or something like that out there. And that really helped, like having that hope where didn't have any of that at all, but it's like, oh, there's that, just that much was helpful. But then I kind of took it a little bit to the extreme, actually. I took it a little too far. I started kind of believing that like, oh, only the spiritual stuff matters. Like only the non-physical spiritual stuff is important, and like this physical world doesn't matter. And so I really was like, kind of in this phase where I just wanted to kind of meditate my life away, or just read. I would read so many different, spiritual and self-help books, but I wouldn't really put them into practice per se, as in like use them to improve my physical life and like get a job, or like start progressing forward, start my career path or something. Like, no, I just stayed at home, and I didn't really get out much, and I just kind of still really isolated myself. But I went, oh, only the spiritual stuff is important. The physical stuff doesn't matter, which was really just a way of me avoiding my life. But I don't know if I fully saw that at the time. So that's why I had going on. And so I was still going up and down, but I had some hope. And I actually was starting to kind of get a little better, even though, I don't know, a little better, but also kind of worse, maybe too. Kind of a mixture of both, maybe. Or like things were kind of staying the same. Like I was still going up and down a lot, I guess. And then, so I do my fall semester. of college, and my spring semester comes, and I get another really high, exceptionally high. Then I also smoke weed again while I'm on my high again. Not a good choice for Graham. Not a good decision there. So then I'm just, again, I got in a really crazy high state, and I end up in the psych ward again. And then this time was a lot tougher. The first time I was in the adolescent side. So I was with kids 18 and younger. This time, since I was now 19, I was in the 19 and older section. So that was a lot tougher, being with some really angry people. So at this point too, and then I come out of the psych ward a second time. Then now for the first time, I'm taking medication. I didn't want to take medication before. Now I'm taking lithium, which is supposed to help. And being on the lithium now, when I was on it, it just made me numb like a zombie. Like and it slowed down my perception of time a lot. And I couldn't feel anything. I just felt like a freaking robot. Granted, I didn't feel miserable, but I didn't feel really anything at all. I guess I did still feel, feeling nothing at all, feeling just kind of like a robot isn't really a positive experience either. So it's like, So I was feeling like that, and it was really hard for me to sleep when I was on lithium. I could not sleep. And so I was on lithium for a few months, and eventually I just weaned myself off it, because I'm like, there's got to be a better way than this. I'm not doing this. And so I just weaned myself off it, got off it. While I was on the lithium, I wasn't cycling either. I was just like level. And when I came off the lithium, I just stopped. It did something where I don't cycle anymore. That was in 2018. Something about it, I don't know, did something brain wise or whatever, but I didn't cycle anymore after I got off it, while I was on it and after I got off it, and haven't since, actually, in the same way. Like, I haven't been going 10 crazy highs to crazy lows anymore. Now it's just been much more yeah. So I got off the lithium, and then it was still mostly just like, it just felt kind of miserable still a lot of the time. But the spiritual stuff was giving me hope. But again, really what I was doing with the spiritual stuff, I was really just entertaining it in my mind. And I really liked the idea of the stuff it was talking about like there being meaning to life, and like you gotta go through your fears. You gotta face the things you fear, kind of stuff. That kind of stuff. And I liked reading about it and hearing about it, but I did not like really putting any of that into practice in my daily life. And around this period too, I really started getting into channeled books. So what is a channeled book? Channeled books they're books that people in connection with like different non-physical beings. So it could be, there's a lot of people in contact with non-physical beings. So like beings that are either passed over or angels, stuff like that. People like communicate with them and then write down what they say. So kind of like how the Bible was written by the Holy Spirit or whatever. Very similar to that. Like that, there's a lot of books written like that, and they're called channeled books. So I really started I loved these channeled books I was reading, and I could really just feel that there was something different about them that felt kind of like the highs I was experiencing. Like they just came from a higher kind of realm. And so yeah, I'm actually gonna have my mom come on for a little bit now, and she's gonna share a little bit about what this experience has been like. Actually, just 1 minute, Mom. 1 minute. I'm gonna talk a little bit more, but I'll have you come on in like a minute or two. And then I came across this channel book called A Course in Miracles, which is it's claimed to be this is the claim that this lady, Jesus wrote it through her. So Jesus in like non-physical form inspired her and wrote this book through her. And it uses a lot of Christian terminology. And I really like this book, and explains a lot about listening to the guidance of the Holy Spirit. And so that's something that I just really loved, like, oh, listening to the guidance of the Holy Spirit. What does that really mean? I don't know, but I really craved this, like, getting in contact with something bigger than me and having that help me guide my life. So I'll pause there because now I'm transitioning more into things kind of improving and getting better into where I am now. And before I kind of segue into that, I'm gonna have my mom come on now. Mom, are you able to get in the Zoom room? She's upstairs, so she's gonna hop on, and she's just gonna share a little bit from her perspective, what it's been like kind of seeing me go through all this stuff, seeing her kid go through all this stuff, and what that's been like for her as a parent. We tried to arrange this a little bit ahead of time so we wouldn't have any problems now. All righty, here she is. So now, hello, Mom. Hello.
Hi.
Are you figuring it out over there?
Is this working okay?
I can't hear ya.
Oh. Well, no, nothing yet.
What? Yeah,
Just a
not able to
delay.
hear ya. I don't know.
Maybe I'll go get.
What? Can you try talking now? Oh, they can all hear her? Oh, I got it muted on my computer. Oh, that's my bad. Oh, well. Okay, talk now, Mom. Okay, I can hear you now, Mom. So do you want to share a little bit now, Mom? Can you hear me now? Mom, I can hear you. Yep, I hear you.
I didn't know if I needed to grab my earbuds. But
No,
if you
you're fine.
We're good.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I had my volume muted on my computer and I didn't know that. So that was my bad.
Okay. So I wanted to thank Graham for inviting me to this event, for asking me to share a little bit about my journey also. I don't want to take up a lot of time, but I thought I would just share just a little bit about about my story and my experience, kind of just sharing like what Graham did. I was an unexpected mom, found out I was expecting Graham at age 19. So I was a very young mom and I really wasn't prepared, but I had the mindset even at that point in time that like, okay, I wasn't expecting this, but I'm going to like be gung ho all in. I had that social work kind of mindset even then, like, okay, this is what it is, but I'm going to be the best and nobody's going to prove me wrong. Like I don't raise this son well. And like, this is, yep, he's going to have everything, even though things are, I don't have money. I don't have a job. I don't have a degree. I don't have a spouse, any of those kind of things. So at that point in time, I really poured myself into just raising him, reading to him, piano lessons, swimming lessons, just going to school and work, just all these things, trying to do the very best that I could for him. I would agree with him of everything that he said about early elementary being easy for him, school
Yes.
easy for him participating in everything. He was a Cub Scout. I taught Sunday school for him, just all of those kinds of things. By middle school, there started to be some things coming up, but again, he was my oldest. And so him withdrawing to his room and starting to stay to himself and video gaming more, like I wasn't a super big fan of it, but kept feeling like this is a phase. He's gonna kind of come out of this. And I had 2 younger sons by then too, so I was just busy with a lot of things. By 16, I was starting to be more seriously worried about him. I knew he was smoking some marijuana. He was sneaking out his window sometimes at night. He had some friends that I was starting to not like. He was very depressed at times. He would be just crying, isolated. I would be like, you have to stop your League of Legends game. You left that out, Graham, to come eat dinner. I did make you do that. but seriously, he's right. He would be down there gaming, and it got to a point where like I just wasn't fighting it. He did start going to therapy around age 16. He went to a couple different people and they would sort of tell me, and he would too, like, I mean, I didn't make him go, but he would be like, they're not really helping me, Mom. This isn't helping where I'm at.
Yeah, it wasn't
By his
necessarily
senior
bad.
year,
Yeah.
I was legitimately worried about him. I was afraid he was going to commit suicide. I was afraid I was going to come home from work and he was going to be in the basement gone. So I started, he started seeing both his regular doctor, a therapist, and a naturopathic MD. So I was trying to do like all these things to try to help him because I wasn't, right, he's my son. I'm going to do everything that I can to try to help him. I do remember him at age 16 telling me about that video in health class. So shout out to teachers out there that do mental health awareness in school.
Yeah, that
I
was
remember
really
him telling me
helpful.
about that video and listening to him, but really not wanting him to have bipolar disorder and not really seeing the highs at this point from my perspective, only just seeing those real lows and being worried about him. But that year things started getting really worse. His therapist started telling me he got referred to psychiatry. His therapist sent him to this intensive outpatient program. I took a couple weeks off from work and attended it with him. By the end of his senior year was when he was manic for that first time, and God bless his high school counselor who called me from the school that day. His school made a huge difference, called me, and he was hospitalized for the first time. I won't go into all the details, but you heard Graham talk about him being hospitalized a second time as well. This whole time, it was hard on our family, hard on our younger sons. He had tried a couple different prescriptions. The lithium was one of them. Kind of my part of it was being a social worker and in schools, I really thought I could, quote, fix him. Like I would be able to care enough, love enough, do enough, line up enough services for him that no matter what happened here, that I thought that I could somehow do this. Not that parents aren't important, but I overestimated both what I could do, and I also overestimated blame in things that maybe somehow this was my fault or I had done something. My grandmother also had schizophrenia, so I grew up knowing that in the back of my mind, kind of that serious persistent mental illness and what kind of effect that can have on one family. I didn't realize at that point of really how to let go. And granted, he was younger, but of Graham having his own gifts and talents and his path for his life not lining up with this traditional kind of path that I had in my mind that had worked for me. And at this time, it felt too to me, I felt very alone because I felt like other families were worried about prom, high school graduation, sending their kids off to college, having an empty nest, crying because they're missing their child that they moved into a college dorm, where I felt like I just was wanting to make sure Graham stayed alive. And I found personally a lot of help from a holistic therapist that Graham and I have both seen. If anybody wants their contact info later, I will send you that. Our naturopathic MD and my own spiritual journey. There were definitely people who were very, very kind people within the mainstream medical journey, very, very good people. However, I experienced my own kind of trauma from Graham's hospitalizations and things that happened during that time. And I'm hoping that things are made better within those systems, but frankly, at this point in time with underfunding and just lack of services, families don't have a lot of priority, and those first hospitalizations are very scary when you don't see it, and their families are, at least in my experience, I felt very on my own. And so I'm getting ready to turn it back to Graham here. He's found his own way through his spiritual path and finding meaning in life, and feeling divine love and support. And I feel like my life lesson was to learn how to let go and support him and not fix him and not change him. It's been really rewarding to see him do an event like this. I want to thank you for coming here and taking the time to listen to him today. That means a lot to both of us. And if any of you would like to connect outside of this forum with me as either a parent or family member of someone who has experienced mental illness, I'm very happy to talk to you. It can be an isolating journey without a lot of resources. You don't have to do it alone. You are not a bad parent. You haven't done anything wrong. It's their path to walk. Something I do feel strongly is that people take a lot of over credit for their children's successes. And society also gives a lot of over blame to parents, especially mothers, when things are hard. And those aren't necessarily our things to carry. So if you have public questions for me, I'm happy to take them. Again, I don't want to take up Graham's space because I feel like this is his story. And thank you to Graham for inviting me to be a part of your journey. So if you want to message me in the chat, I'm happy to answer things. Or if you want to talk outside the chat, I'll put my personal email and cell phone in the chat too. Is that okay, Graham?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay,
I just want
will kick it back to you.
Well, hold up before you leave.
Wait, I can't have like my audio on and like hear you on delay. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then like have it here because there's that 20-second delay. So it's weird. I'm gonna go back into the live. Does that work, Graham? I'm old. I'm sorry. I'm a boomer. That's what I'm told.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. You can leave.
Okay, I'm gonna go back over there.
Well, you can if you just mute the Facebook stream. Can you do that? Yes, Jessica. The video will be up after. Okay. Well, I think my mom is done, but thank you, Mom, for coming on here. That was really, really powerful. Oh my goodness. It made me cry a lot just hearing you share that. Man. Because I know too that it wasn't just hasn't just been difficult for me, it's really been difficult, especially for my mom. But she's been so supportive of me and has really been the one person always there who I know who has always listened to me. Um, and I mean, we haven't always seen eye to eye either, but there's I'm just feel so thankful for you, Mom. Thank you. And thank you for coming on here and sharing. That was just so wonderful. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I will continue from where I left off about kind of things starting to come around some more. So as I had shared just before my mom came on, started really enjoying this book, A Course in Miracles. I love you too, Mom. Started really enjoying this book, A Course in Miracles, and it talks about the listening to the guidance of the Holy Spirit, or maybe another way of putting it is listening to your own intuition. And so I came across this book in like fall 2019. Before this, in fall 2019 too, I will share one other thing I did as well. I took a road trip out to California in summer 2019 to go to a spiritual retreat out in California. So I drove alone in my minivan, and I slept in my minivan and drove out to California. Stayed there for about 10 days, did this retreat, met some awesome people. And then came back home. I quit my job to go do that too. I quit my job, did that, came back home. That was a good experience. I mean, also challenging, just being on my own like that and really having to rely on myself a lot, I guess. So I did that. Then the Course in Miracles, I really wanted to like get that kind of direct guidance in my life, because I just felt like I know the spiritual stuff is real. I know that there is help out there for me. I know that that I feel it in my own being that we just keep going on after we die. I know that in that sense I'm eternal, where I keep on. That's my belief. That's what I feel. And so I felt these things, but still it's like when I look at my life, I'm still just in this rut of kind of being at home. At this time I was like 20. I'm just being at home. I dropped out of college. I'm at home. I'm not really working, pretty much just kind of laying around, pretty much still just avoiding my life, too scared to really um take any action, really any action forward. And again, wanting to just kind of meditate my life away and kind of like, yeah. But anyways, like I was saying, wanted this guidance in my life. So fast forward then to this coming fall, or this last fall, the fall 2020 here. I've been wanting this guidance and wanting to tap into some sort of guidance. And eventually I came across this guy through a friend, and his name's Ken Lewicki, and I looked up on his Facebook page, and he talks about channeling your spirit guides and helping you channel your own spirit guides. And I'd been aware a spirit guide, it's again it's a non-physical being, or non-physical beings, spirit guides that just work with you and help you in your daily life. So this is what he claims to do, help people connect with their spirit guides. And I'm like, yes, I totally want to do that. That's what I've been looking for. I'm looking for that like direct guidance in my life, because I still don't exactly know what to do. Yes, I feel this spiritual stuff is good. I'm still struggling a lot. I'm still in this hole, even though I have this spiritual stuff has helped me to a degree, but I'm still not really living it. I'm still not really like kind of bringing love to those really broken parts of me, and not moving forward in my life. From high school to even just this past fall, it was like 3 or 4 years. I'm 22 now. It's still just at home, not really working much, just kind of doing the bare minimum. So I started working with Ken here in the fall, and bang, really first session with him, super easy to connect with my spirit guides. It really came really easily. It wasn't something that difficult. And what he does in a session is he's in contact with your spirit guides too. This is getting maybe a little woo woo for some people. I don't know, but this is my experience, I guess. So he is in contact with my spirit guides. And so he'll tell me like, okay, where's your guide around you? And I'll feel around and I'll just be like, it feels like he's over here. And he'll be like, yes. Now your guide's trying to say something to you. What is he saying to you? And just kind of feel into it and be like, well, this is what he's telling me. And Ken will be like either kind of yes or no, or maybe there's more to it, but he just teaches you how to do it on your own. And he has classes where he teaches this channeling, how to channel your guides and stuff. And in one of his classes, you work on channeling other people's guides. And I started doing that and started working with that more. And then at the end of that class, the homework is to do 20 spirit guide readings for other people. Do 20 readings. Now this just petrified me. I could not, still so uncomfortable in my own skin, and like doing like a live event like this, even 5 months ago, would have just scared the shit out of me. I would have been able to do it, like be this kind of vulnerable and just talk about this kind of stuff, I guess, like this. So doing those 20 readings really was challenging for me. But it really helped me by actually doing them to like, I really practiced then having something I'm really afraid of doing these readings. I was afraid of what? I was afraid of being judged by this other person, not doing a good reading, having them mad at me, all this kind of stuff in these readings. I kept doing them anyways. I kept doing them. And that's really helped me grow a lot. I don't feel as socially anxious as I was. And a lot of it comes from doing those readings and just working through that fear. And then working with my own guides too, and finally feeling like, okay, I know I have my spirit guides. I can feel them. They're here helping me. I can communicate with them. And what do my guides want me to do? They actually want me to move forward in my life, what I hadn't been doing before. While the few years when I was interested in spiritual stuff, but not doing anything, not taking any action. Like my guides really want me to just start doing stuff. And that's been so much more fulfilling as I've been. And really, it's been doing a lot of these readings. And then one thing that really changed for me too, around my birthday here, I came across this book, and it's called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And this book really changed something in me. It really touched me. I'll just share a little bit about him and this book, and then I'll probably be about done. But Victor, he was in Europe during World War II. He was a Jew. He was maybe like in his 30s when the Holocaust started happening. So he ended up in a concentration camp and was in one for 3 or 4 years or something like that. And just miserable conditions, you know. Now that is actually, that is really like what he went through is really hard, you know. I can't even believe it. Like the just having barely enough to eat, seeing everyone around you die. He talks about in here that only like 1 in 26 people made it out of there. Him just talking about that. But what really struck me is he kept talking there about how he never gave up hope, even in those just the toughest circumstances. He never gave up hope. And what kept him going, one thing that kept him going was he really wanted to write a book because he was a psychologist before he was in the concentration camp. He really wanted to finish his book. He had started it, wasn't able to finish it. So wanting to finish his book propelled him, gave him meaning to, you know, continue going. And then also the idea of seeing his wife again, who he was separated from in the camp right away. They were separated. So yeah, just this guy in these terrible circumstances and not giving up hope. And then kind of comparing that to my own life, I have not, again, like my mom shared too, like I have not had hard outer circumstances, like really good family, really good school, wasn't bullied or anything at school, although yeah, so really not a hard outer life, just a struggled internally. So to see this guy and see what he went through and feel it and how he wasn't able, and well, how he never gave up, it just struck something in me to be like, okay, I can do this life in front of me right here. Like I've got it a lot better than that. Like if he can face that life, I can face this life and start moving forward. Yeah, this book really touched me. And it really helped me start moving forward. Right after I read this book, a few weeks after I made my readings business page. Then I started doing reading events. I started offering paid spirit guide readings. Like this is just doing the readings and the channeling spirit guides is really what I have been enjoying. It's really given me some meaning doing the readings, and it's really helped me push through a lot of fears too. And overall, especially these last 3 months, like I just feel pretty damn happy. And I don't feel so scared of facing my life anymore. Facing my life as in like I'm not so afraid of doing things I'm afraid of, I guess. Or like before it would be like a social situation. I want to talk to someone, but oh, I'm scared. I wouldn't do it. Now I just more lean into those feelings. And if I really feel called to do something, even though I'm scared, I'm starting to just do it more anyways. And oh, that has been so liberating to starting to do that more and more. I'll share too, another thing that has helped me so much has been diet. Diet has been huge. I've really cleaned up my diet ever since I started getting into the spiritual stuff when I was 18. Bit by bit, I started cleaning up my diet, and that's really helped my overall health and my mental health a lot. I mean, I just ate like complete crap beforehand, and I didn't think it affected me at all. And boy, was I wrong, because now I don't really eat I don't eat sugar anymore. I still eat fruits, but like sugar, baked goods, stuff like that, I'm not eating. Nothing processed. I don't eat much meat, not because I really feel that meat is bad, just because when I eat it, I've noticed I don't like how I feel that much after I eat it. I just feel anxious. So I just, for the most part, I don't eat much meat. I don't really eat dairy either. I just don't, and it's not because these foods are bad. I don't see them as bad. I've just noticed what I feel like as I eat them. And I just noticing more like, oh, I don't feel good after eating like meat, after eating processed stuff. And so kicking them out, diet has helped me a ton. What are some other things that have helped me? I'll share too, yes, as I've worked with Ken too. Ken was the guy who taught me how to channel spirit guides in September. As I worked with him, and also he has a community around him kind of people that have taken his classes and that have worked with him. And I've just met and worked with so many of those people, and we all like to channel our spirit guides and stuff. And we've all taken his classes, so we all have similar training. And I've just really met in a wonderful group of people that I feel like really, I feel understood there. And that community has just been great. That community of people I've met through Ken, that has been amazing. Yeah, and right now too, I'm doing the readings and stuff too, and I'm also planning and looking at going back to school here in the fall. Planning on doing planning on going for a social work degree, because I would really like to. I can't claim to like be perfect or be fixed or anything like that now. Like all of us, we all struggle to some degree or another. I mean, life's challenging for everybody. Or there are challenges in life for everyone. No one's immune to that. But I feel a lot better than I did for so many of those years now. And it really has been working with my guides a lot and listening to my inner guidance has really helped me. Cleaning up the diet has helped me. And really more being with my emotions and not avoiding any of my feelings anymore. Not avoiding my feelings and just being with my feelings and breathing into them and being okay with them. And then also being okay with them. And even if I'm feeling kind of distraught or not my greatest, and say I got a reading or something at 6 o'clock, I still, okay, it's okay, Graham. And then I go, I'm not feeling the greatest, but it's like, I got to do this anyways. And still showing up even when I'm not feeling the best emotionally, taking it easy and still kind of going forward. I've been doing that more, and that's been nice. I just feel like I'm finally on my life path right now, and I feel like I'm living a meaningful life, and it feels really nice. Feels really good, and and I just feel so much more like myself, so much more like just me. And I don't feel like that split that I did when I was going high and low. They've just, those two split kind of aspects have just kind of integrated now. And I just feel like me. I'm gonna open it up to Q&A now. There's 13 people here. I've monologued a lot, the great monologue. So if you have any questions, feel free to fire away a few in the chat. I haven't been super chat interactive either. I've been in the monologue. I guess too, I want to share too, if there's one thing, I don't know, I would just like other people that have struggled with their mental health, or maybe a parent that has their kids struggling with their mental health too, to just feel like there's hope, or things can get better. Because I think that's a thing too with mental health stuff is, you get diagnosed with depression, you get diagnosed with ADHD or something like that, and it's a permanent thing. There's nothing you can do about it. Like you're, kind of what you're told is like, you're broken, something's really broken in you, and you're kind of screwed. You got dealt the shit hand is kind of what it's seen like. And I don't know, like I don't feel like a disabled or a handicapped person or anything like that. Like I definitely had some struggles for sure. I have had them, but I don't know, like I don't feel like it's like a permanent for life kind of thing like that. Cause I don't struggle like that, the ups and downs and getting so I feel like that might be a better way of putting it. Like I don't get so lost in the ups and downs, like I experience them and more embrace them more now. So any questions for me regarding this, really anything at all, feel free to fire away in the chat. Let me look and see if there may be some earlier. Doesn't look like any questions. That's perfectly fine. I'm gonna put the Zoom link now in the chat. And if you want to just come in and chat with me in private, I'm gonna end the Facebook stream here. Well, first, before that, thanks everyone for joining in, and those of you who have sticking around all the way to the end here. I hope that just hearing me share about this was maybe inspiring for you, or I don't know, helped you get a different idea of mental health and mental illness. Yeah, thank you, Amy. Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you, Bethany, as well. Yeah. So I'm going to share the Zoom link here. Let me get that up here. Copy it. And feel free to check out my business page, Heart Center Channeling. If you want to explore what a reading with me is like, right now I'm doing $5 for 5 minutes. If you just want to test it out, see what it's like. Low commitment there, if that's something of interest to any of you. So here we are. And they're posted. Okay. There's the Zoom link. Feel free to come in and join and chat with me if there's anything you would like to share with me face to face. Otherwise, now I'm going to end the Facebook live stream. Oh, there's a comment from someone here, Jessica Bakey. Yeah, I hope you enjoy the video when you get to watch it, Jessica. So I'm going to end the Facebook live here. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Hope you got something valuable out of it. And take care. Have a lovely Thursday. Join me on the Zoom room. Bye bye now.